What's going on, everyone? It's Scott here from the Breakevens, giving you another podcast today. The bye rounds are over. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. We don't have to worry about them at all for the rest of the season. We've gone through two rotations of buys, and it killed me. It killed me. I did a lot better this year with the buys. Still got some improvements to make for next year, but um, yeah, I'm just glad they're over. I hate the buys. I just want a primo team week in week out. I just want to pick the best players, but the AFL's the AFL, and we're seeing a lot more buy rounds and weeks off here and there just because the game's fast. So that's understandable, but in Supercoach terms, the buys are done. Happy days. Everyone should be looking to be full primo by now. If not, you should be one away after this week, but most likely everyone should be full primo. So this podcast is going to go through the my team, what I'm thinking, and then I'll go through the captain's choices. So that should be fun. But before we do that, we need to get into and go through our socials. So don't forget you can find us on Twitter/X at Breakevens Pod, on Facebook, the Breakevens Facebook page. We post everything there. I've been a bit busy the last few weeks, so I do need to apologize for that. June's a bit of a busy time for me and my family. So that's why there hasn't been as much content coming up. Luckily, it is the buys. So, it's not like it's the start of the season where there's heaps of content. But I try to do as much as I possibly could. So, yeah, you can find us there on Facebook, here on YouTube at the Break Evens, and on Instagram at the Break Evens. So, how did my team go this week? That is a great question. Maybe we should go and check it out. So give me a second and I will click over. This is how I went 2093. Um, a green arrow, which is great. I've seen two green arrows, two red arrows during the buys. So that's not too bad. 2093. I'm a little disappointed. Going into the Sunday game, I was projected for 2,200, which would have been great. But as we know, projections don't always work, and the Sunday games were a bit of a killer. So dropped down to 2,093. Again, I'll take it. Jumped up 223 spots, so I'm top 4K again, which is slightly annoying because I was close to top K, the top 1K, but we have a few weeks to get back there. So, and being full primo, hopefully that works out. Um, Trades this week, I'm planning on doing one, but I'll go through that a little bit later. I do have a few things up my sleeve that I could do. So, um, let's see how my team went. Personally, this week, all the players, and then we'll get into my trades in a second. So this is how we lined up. This is how we went. So we'll go through the defense first. So Luke Ryan, 93. You'll take as a bad game. Obviously hoping for a little bit more there. Harry Shizzle, 117, very good. Jordan Ridley came in and only scored an 84, which is disappointing. Didn't really get into the game there. I think Redmond might have stolen a few kickouts as well. I might have to double check that, but yeah, slightly annoying. Jeremy McGovern, 99. I think he's yet to ton for me. I've got him in and he just hasn't tonned. He finished on 100 and then he just got downscaled to 99. He was on 89 or 90 or something at 3/4 time. And I was like, finally, he's going to ton, and he hasn't, which is frustrating. Zach Fisher, 108, and Nick Martin, 112. In the midfield, Errol Goulden, 151. The annoying thing was, I was I saw the Walsh 110. I was like, obviously, I'm not going to take that. I had the C on merit. I was looking at Goulden and I was going, could or should I go on Goulden? Decided not to do that and lost out on some points there because he's got 151, which is very good. But since I've brought him in, he's come down 135 or something, 151. So I'm happy there. Speaking of 135, Zach Merritt captain. I'm definitely going to take that. Obviously, 16 points lost gets me over that 2,100, but it's not the biggest loss. Zach Butters 123 was very good. Walsh 110, I'll take. Took Miller 95 is very frustrating, and he's on the chopping block this week. Tom Green bounced back of 153. Very surprised about that. Very happy about that. But I am worried. So I'm going to give him this week to see how he goes. He does have a tough run home. So also on the chopping block. And Breville, Brucey Reveal, 61, very consistent. I will definitely take that. Thank you, Brevs. Maxi Gorn, 114. Take that. I wasn't expecting a massive game from Maxi, but I was expecting a ton, so happy there. Sam Flanders, 117, very happy with. Isaac Heaney, 112, in the same boat, happy. Zorko, 104, happy again. And then Luke Jackson. um, yeah, 66. I think it was on 44 or something at half time. And I was like, okay, if he gets to 90, the 85, 90 mark, I'll definitely take that. Did nothing in the second half. So 66. Toby McMillan, 65. Happy there. He didn't start as sub, so he got a full game and scored 65. So that's very good for his cash gen. And Kynan Brown, unfortunately, started as sub, but laid one tackle and got 21 points for it. So, yes, take that. But yeah, obviously, him and Reveal didn't count in the score. I had 20 playing, so the two lowest. So that saved me a few points. And yeah, just wish Jackson did a little bit more. But apart from that, everyone did decently. So I'll take that. So what am I going to do this week? Let me go and show you. All right. So Took Miller is on the chopping block. I brought him in, he was doing well. And then fell off a cliff almost. It seems like he has 2 to 3 bad games and one spike game. So he's on the chopping block. I was also thinking about Nick Martin and Tom Green. So going into this week, I was always got whoever scored the lowest out of Miller, Martin, and Green. They were going no matter what this week. Unfortunately, Green's got 153 and Martin 112. So Took's gone. I was looking to possibly move 2 on, but I'm going to keep as it is now. So I really only need the one person. Now, looking at the squad, obviously I could put Dacos or Martin into the midfield for this player. I've got 522. So if we filter by players I can afford in the defense, Blakey, Hinge, Newman really are, maybe Stewart. My 3 guys. And I'm looking Hinge. Yes. As a pod in 1.3%, averaging 98 at the moment, but has been scoring really well as of recent. The Lizard, I love his game, but I don't think he's 105 plus. Newman with Sard back, I'm not liking it as much. And Stewart, I think Stewart's done. Teams have figured him out. One actually is Trent Rivers here. Someone who I could look at. Look to have taken over Petrarca's mid time. So he could be someone there that I could look at as a pod. Um, and at 451k. So I could do that. If I wanted to put, let's say, a Heaney into the midfield, see who I can get in the forward line. Go up. So I can get Charlie Curnow, who I'm big on for the run home. You've got Jai Caldwell there, who seems to have picked it up, especially with Parrish not in the side. And apart from that, I could risk it on a Shy Bolton. But no one really there. Curnow, I think he is a 95 to 100 average for the rest of the season. Caldwell could be an 100, possibly. And who's the other one? Bolton, yeah. No, I'm not going Bolton. So I'm basically stuck getting a midfielder. So let's have a look. I can get Andy Brayshaw. I'm if I was going to get a Freo mid, I'd get Sarong. Basically, is what it comes down to. Row bottom at a pod selection. He went 163 last week. Not sure on him. McCluggage, I'm going to stay clear. Petrarca's injured. Newcomb, no. Caldwell's there again. Ollie Wines. Clayton Oliver, 32, stunk. There's not much here until we go down to this man here. Connor Rosie, 410k. Obviously, he had that down game with his hamstring, or well, there was like 3 weeks there. He did his hamstring, got subbed out, played the next week, did his hamstring again. So bit there. Looks to be back at 410k. I think he can go 105 to 110. So going at my possible defenders who I could bring in and my possible forwards who I could have brought in. I thought they were 95 to 100. So Rosie at 105, 110 is a bit more. So he's going to come in. So that leaves me with 112, and I have 3 trades left for the season. So my initial thoughts is to hold. Right? Actually, I'll leave that there for now. Is to hold. Now, few people are on the chopping block. I'm going to stick with Jackson just because if Trek gets injured, I've got him there. He's going to score well. All right. If he goes 90 to 95 for the rest of the season, I'm happy there. Happy here. Happy here. Mostly happy here. As I said, Nick Martin was definitely on the chopping block there. And I've got Dawson and Green. So let's see. Nick Martin. If I wanted to do a second trade, I could get Dan Houston or Jordan Clark in. They would basically be my 2 picks, which I like both of them, especially for this week. But is it worth? Are they going to average roughly the same as Nick Martin? And I can save a trade there. That's something I'll have to look at in the coming weeks. If I wanted to get rid of Green, what would that leave me with? 589. So I could get Sarong. I could get a Dunkley. I could risk it on lead if I wanted to. But apart from that, yeah, so Sarong's a big one. Um, let's see what his run home is like, because that would probably sway me, just because I know Green has a tough run home. So who do Freo have? Sydney, which is a tough matchup. Richmond, Hawthorn, Melbourne, West Coast. He could score points there. Essendon could score points. Geelong, I can see him scoring points. GWS is a tough one, and Port. So he has a decent run home. In my opinion, if I get DFS up on my phone, sorry, you guys won't be able to see this. You'll just see me with my head down. But inside mids, Richmond, okay. Hawthorn is a tough one for inside mids. So they're actually a tough matchup. Melbourne are decent. West Coast, very easy. Essendon are a good matchup. Geelong is about 50-50. Giants is a tough one. And Port, going off this, Port is a tough one as well. So yeah, it's tough on the run home. So if I wanted to do that, um, I could get Sarong. And the other one was Jordan Dawson. So if I traded him, I think I could basically get anyone. So um, we'll just sort by highest. I don't think anyone's really over 664K at the moment. So I could get LDU. I probably wouldn't get Trelaw. That's about it. Apart from Sarong. So um, yeah, that's just something to think about in the coming weeks. So as I said, I am worried about Tom Green. Um, so really, if he scores poor this week, I probably will trade him. Hopefully Sarong isn't of um uh out of reach. I do want to see actually what is his break even for this week, because that would help me. So he's got 121 break even, so roughly be the same, unless he goes absolutely bonkers. And what's Tom Green's break even? 44. So Green will definitely go up in price. Okay. So that's something I can definitely look at there. But I'm going to confirm this trade. So Miller to Rosa, I'm going to confirm that, and then I will come back to you with how the team will line up. All right, so this is how I'm going to line up. Not much has changed. Rose's come in for Miller, obviously. I've got the VC on Zorko. Um, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But he's played Melbourne, and I think he has a chance to score well. So I'm VC on him, and I'm going the captain on Sam Flanders. I think he might be one that people might not jump on, and I'm actually against the Pies. I think he'd go off the chains. So that's how I am lining up. As you can see, full primo. Um, with question marks over Tom Green, Jordan Dawson, and Nick Martin, really. So 3 trades left, 112K in the bank. Hopefully there isn't a big injury, but if there is, I have that cover, which I'm happy about. Now, before I get into the captains, a lot of people will be like, you got Bruce Reveal, just get rid of him. You can get someone else. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait on Reveal, unless he is dropped this week, which I don't think he will be. He's actually done a solid for Brisbane since he's come in. But I'm gonna wait, see if he can make a little bit more cash, and then maybe go down to 102K, then possibly go Tom Green or Dawson up later in the season. when their fixtures get a little bit tougher. So for now, I'm gonna hold 3 trades for the rest of the season. Fingers crossed it works out. So that is my team for round 16. All right, so now we move into the captains, the VC and C. So we'll start on the Friday night. These will be your vice captain options. You got the Lions versus the D's at the Gabba. So Maxi Gorn has got 138 and 215 in his last 2 against the Lions, but both these games were at the MCG. History says this is a great matchup for Gorn, but this season's statistics say otherwise, with the Lions being the second hardest matchup for Rucks, with opposing Rucks averaging 21.31 points less over the last 5 games. Being a VC, you could risk it on Gorn because it is Max Gorn. We know how well he can score, but I would probably be looking elsewhere this week. Dane Zorko, my VC for this week, 116, 72, 139 in his last 3. It looks to be a favorable matchup for Zorko this week. The D's are the 4th easiest matchup for defenders this season. And for designated kickers, aka Dane Zorko, the designated kickers have averaged plus 9.55 points more over the last 5 games against the D's. So Zorko looks to be a great option this week. So designated kickers, those are those players who take kickouts or they try and get the ball into their hands to start that offensive chain. So Zorko does look very good here. Josh Dunkley is another one. The D's once again are the 4th easiest matchup for midfielders this season, and inside midfielders average 1.43 more points over the last 5 games against the D's. With Neil also most likely copying a Neil Bullen tag, Dunks could see a little bit more of the ball. As we move to Saturday, and these will be your VC or C options, depending on if you have a Zorko, Gorn, Dunkley, or if you go someone else. So the first game is the Roos versus the Dogs. Marcus Montepelli, 169, 102, and 82 in his last 3 against the Roos. It looks to be a favorable matchup for the Bont. The Roos are the 3rd easiest matchup for midfielders this season, but there are some concerns. In the last 5 games, inside midfielders have averaged 3.59 points less. And this is mainly due to Will Phillips playing that tagging role and being very successful at it, which we expect Bond to take this tag. But if anyone can break a tag, it is the Bont. So it is a bit of a riskier one this week, but we know Bont can score. Adam Treloar, 142, 103, and 108 in his last 3. Obviously, all the stats are the same for Treloar as they were for Bont. But this could be a game that Treloar could find a little bit more of the ball and score some more points with Bont copying that tag. He could be a good pod pick this week. So if you have Treloar, you want to risk it as a VC, I don't hate it. LDU, 73, 74, and 66 in his last 3 against the Dogs. So history in the matchup does not look great on paper for LDU. The Dogs are the 2nd hardest team for midfielders, and inside mids are averaging 8.39 points less against the Dogs in the last 5 games. But he is an end of season specialist. And I did point this out a couple weeks ago when the Roos came off their bye. I said LDU finishes strong, and he is averaging 135.6 in his last 5 rounds. I would back him as a pod pick this week. Dogs don't tag. He's got that head of steam. He's like a bull in a china shop. He's ready just to go charging. Everything will break around him. He could score well, even though history that doesn't say so. And also just Tristan Cherry, also a pod pick, but I would go one of the other three first. English does leak points as a ruckman, so that's it there. Bailey Dale, Harry Sheasel, and Zach Fisher all could score well, but designated kickers don't look to go well in this matchup. So just keep that in mind. Swans versus Freo is up next, and Brody Grundy, 102, 101, and 135 in his last three. He has been on absolute fire as of late with a 3-round average of 143.7. And he plays at the SCG this week, where he averages 134.8 points this season at the SCG. Freo being the sixth easiest matchup for Rucks, looks good, but over the past 5 games, Rucks have actually averaged 0.67 less points. So not that big of a change, but some points may drop here. I think Grundy, though, is the safest option in this game. Isaac Heaney, Caleb Sarong, and Errol Goulden, all very much on the same page, all very consistent and scoring well. But this game is a tough matchup. Inside midfielders score 9.49 points less over the last 5 games against Freo, and minus 3.58 points against the Swans. So not great for inside mids, but they are still good options. Either of them could go big, but I prefer Grundy this week in my own opinion. Jordan Clark is an interesting one. So he has been a surprise packet this season and has been very consistent. Attacking defenders have scored 5.88 points more in the last 5 games against the Swans, which could see Clark be a very good pod pick this week. So if you wanted to risk it, Jordan Clark is there. I think he will score well. And I just wanted to touch on Lukey Ryan. So he looks to maybe have to play more of a lockdown role with Alex Pearce, potentially looking like he's going to miss this week and maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure what the injury list says, but he's likely to miss, and this does not bode well for Luke Ryan at all. He averages 9.7 points less with Pearce out of the side. Now, those stats came in 2022 because Pearce didn't really miss any games at all last season. So the season before, when he missed, Luke Ryan scored 9.7 points less. So just be wary of that. We move to the next game, Suns versus the Pies. You got Nick Dacos, 149, 143, and 75 in his last three, averaging 116.3 points over his last 3 games this season. Dacos looks to be a great pickup this week as your VC or C, although the Suns are the 4th toughest matchup for midfielders, but inside mids have averaged 5.58 more points against the Suns over the last 5 games. So tough matchup for all mids, but inside mids, as of late, has seemed to have been scoring a bit more points. So Dacos could see a bump there, but also the Pies have players coming back. So see what happens there. Next is Sam Flanders, 129.3 average over the last 3 games, makes Flanders looking very promising. On top of that, designated kickers have averaged 6.32 points more over the last 5 games against the Pies. The Pies are very inaccurate in front of goal. Those who take kick-ins, going to get plenty of it. We could definitely see a big score from Flanders this week, and that's why he is my captain. Matt Rowell, Noah Anderson, and Touk Miller all could be other great options with inside midfielders averaging 1.57 points more over the last 5 games against the Pies. All could score well, but the other 2 options in Dacos and Flanders seem better this week. Got the Crows versus the Giants. I've put Rory Laird and Jordan Dawson in the same because one of these guys are going to score well. It just depends on if you pick the right one or not. Inside mids do average 3.44 less points against the Giants in the last 5 games, and it proves to be a tough matchup for both players. So I would stay clear, but if you wanted to, you could risk it. Tom Green next, 134, 107, 111 in his last 3 against the Crows. History says Green can score well. against the Crows, and last week he seemed to be back to his best. Although Crows are a tough matchup as of late, with inside midfielders averaging 1.97 points less in the last 5 games. If Green is back, he can go big on any given day, though. Next up is Mitchy Hinge, 109.7 average over the last 3 games, with the Giants giving up 15.62 points more over the last 5 games to attacking and wing defenders. So those who like to run out of defense onto the wing, get that ball going inside 50, 15.62 points more. So I think Hinge could be a good cheeky pod selection this week, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes 130 plus. So if you have Hinge and you want that pod selection, could be a good one. Cats versus the Bombers. You got Zachy Merritt. The Cats are the 5th easiest matchup for midfielders this season. Even though over the last 5 games, inside midfielders have averaged 3.01 points less against the Cats. But it is Merritt, and you'd think he'd be safe for a 125 plus. Next one is Maxi Holmes, 112.4 average over the last 5 games. And on top of that, the Bombers give up 4.68 points more to inside midfielders. So if you're wanting to go a Cats player this week, you're a Cats fan, you want to spice it up, Max Holmes is your guy. So now we move to Sunday, and these are strictly captain options. So we've got Saints versus Port Adelaide, and first up is Rowan Marshall. Seems to be the standout captain option in this game, with Port Rucks giving up a whopping 20.81 points more over the last 5 games to Rucks. So it's pretty simple. Marshall is going big. Next up is Jack Sinclair and Nasiah Wanganeen Miller. So both are great options this week, being the main distributors off of halfback, with Port giving up 14.44 points more over the last 5 to those attacking/wing defenders. So again, pod selections right there. Another one is Dan Houston, again being the main distributor off of halfback, but this time for Port Adelaide. Houston looks to be primed for a big score this week. The Saints give up 12.62 points more over the last 5 games, and are also the second easiest matchup for defenders. So it could be a good one there. I just do want to touch on Zach Butters, most likely copping a Windhager tag, you would think. It might be a tough game for Butters. If he doesn't cop a tag, though, I think he does become a good option as well, but I am just worried about that. Next game, you got the Tigers versus the Blues. And first up, I'm going to say Nick Martin. Surprisingly, he's the best option in this game, in my opinion. Tigers give up the most points to defenders this season and give up 14.73 points more to those attacking/wing defenders and 8.95 points more to designated kickers. So if he gets those kick-ins, Tigers give up points, and if he's looking to go forward, once again, they give up plenty of points. So if you wanted a really good pod captain choice, you got Nick Newman in this game. Sam Walsh and Paddy Cripps, as we know, Tigers give up the most points to midfielders this season. So, one of, if not both of these guys could go massive this week, and they both provide great options. If you want to go a little bit different, you got Charlie Curnow here as well, the second easiest matchup for forwards this year. And Curnow looks to be hitting his straps and could be in for a big day, and he provides a good pod pick. So a lot of pod picks there. You got Curnow, you got Newman, and a lot of people will sleep on a Cripps and Walsh. So definitely could go one of those. In the last game, you got the Eagles versus the Hawks, and the only option in this game, in my opinion, would be Dylan Moore, unless you have Will Day. But I'm going to say Dylan Moore, I think, is a bit more relatable. So it looks to be a great matchup for Moore this week, with the Eagles being the third easiest matchup this year for forwards, and they give up 4.19 more points to the general forwards, who are your more smaller type players that push up the ground. So that is exactly what Moore is. But also, if Moore gets some mid time, they give up 12.95 points more to inside midfielders, and that's where Will Day comes into it. So basically, Dylan Moore is a good pick this week. No other standout options for this game. You could risk it on a McGovern or a Yo, but I don't like the chances of them pumping out a captain score, which is usually around 125. So that is all of the captain options. I'll run through my top 5 VCs and C. So my top 5 VCs coming in number 5 is Mitch Hinge. Coming in at number 4 is Jordan Clark. So I've got your your 2 smoky pod picks there. I do really like them. Number 3 is Sam Flanders. If you want a bit of a later VC, Grundy comes in at number 2 and Zorko number 1. And your top 5 captains coming in number 5 is Nick Newman. I really do like that. And number 4 is Sam Flanders. Number 3 is Grundy. Number 2 is Dan Houston. I think he's going to go big. And number 1 is Rowan Marshall. I think you could see a 170 plus from Marshall this week. So if you have him in a draft in Classic, I would probably back him in this week. So there you have it. That's the end of the pod. So a lot of content there, especially for the captains. I had the spare time this week. As I said, I apologize as of late. I haven't had a lot of time, but I had the time. I was able to go into it. Hopefully, going forward, I can continue that as well because I know a lot of people did like my VC and C write-ups, and they haven't been there the last couple of weeks. So yeah, I do apologize. But thank you all for watching or listening to the podcast. Don't forget you can find us on Twitter at Breakevens Pod. On Facebook, the Facebook page, the Breakevens. Make sure you give us a like and a follow. Here on YouTube at the Breakevens. Don't forget to subscribe, and over on Instagram, the Breakevens. So good luck for round 16, and until next time, it's bye for now.